ating mga Zoom participants and also to our Facebook Live viewers. So for the information of everyone, we are also live on Facebook. Don't forget to share this live stream so others can join us. All right, we already have more than 400 participants in Zoom, and let's see, taga saan ba yung mga participants natin? We have from La Union, Ma'am May Joy, right, from Bulacan, from Basilan. Hello, Sir Raymond. At marami pa pong different parts of this country. All right, so thank you po for spending your afternoon with us, and we are really thrilled that we maintained the number of participants joining this webinar series from day 1 up to this day, and hopefully until tomorrow. So we are down to our last 2 sessions for this webinar series with Sir John Macasio. Nabasa ko nga sa chat kahapon that some of you were already excited for today's session. So I must say that we are truly glad for your avid participation in our webinars. And for today, Sir John will be discussing another interesting topic entitled cloud computing. But before we proceed, first things first, here are our reminders. Always keep your mic on mute. Interact with us through the chat box or when there are online tools. Have a glass of bottle or have a glass of water with you. Hydrate every now and then. So activities for this session. First, we will have our Mentimeter and then our Q&A portion towards the end of the webinar. So we encourage everyone to raise their questions. For our Zoom participants, you may raise your questions through the Q&A box. And for our Facebook Live viewers, you may just type in your questions on the comment section. And last activity would be our raffle draw. We'll be giving away 100 pesos worth of load for 2 winners. Duration and schedule. So for those who just joined, this webinar is a series. We started last April 12 and we will end tomorrow. This is a 5-day live webinar, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., 3 hours per session. So as regards our evaluation link, that will be given on April 16, 2021 for our Zoom participants. So that is the single evaluation for you. However, for our Facebook Live viewers, you have to accomplish a daily evaluation. Our evaluation link will be accessible 5 p.m. until 12 midnight. A certificate of participation will be given to the participants who have attended 80% of the training sessions and accomplished all the training activities / output. And reminder po ulit, yung email addresses po natin, make sure na correct yung spelling at active so that you will be able to receive your certificate. All right, let's do the Mentimeter. Go to www.menti.com. So how do you feel about today's session? That's our question for today. Let's read some responses. Ayan, marami. Paul pala ito, maraming excited and ready to learn. At meron ding nervous. Oh, why are you nervous? All right, so for now, let's proceed to our training session. I'm sure excited na kayo makita ulit si Sir John. Sir John, the floor is yours.
Magandang hapon. Magandang araw sa iyo, Miss May.
Magandang araw din, Sir John.
Nandiyan ba si Panginoong Rod Macan?
Yes, sir. Nandito po siya, sir.
Ba, nakita ko na rin pangalan ni Miss Wendy. Alright. So, let me start by sharing with you the summary brief, okay, the summary or the briefing of our session yesterday. So, just have to go to my Facebook page, JM Logic. There you will see the, alright. Okay ba, May? Nakikita na?
Yes po, sir.
Right. So, yesterday, I have a lot of claims yesterday relative to digital transformation terms for nation technologies relative to its project development. So, this is how I'm going to summarize what we have shared yesterday. So, the successful delivery of digital transformation objective, as I said yesterday, relies on project transformative leadership and organization that have elicited, elaborated, analyzed, documented, and agreed on their foundational belief of the right things to do and to do the right things right on each phase of the developmental life cycle. It includes the adoption of clear, coherent, complete, and consistent view of performance area and result indicators and the appropriate practices of the delivery method. So alam na ninyo, hindi problem ang technology. Hindi problema ang mga matitigas na ulo na empleyado. Hindi rin problema ang mga supplier. Nagsisimula ang problema sa project kung ang project leadership at ang organization walang malinaw. Pansinin niyo ang Pilipinas, ang dami nating disaster. Meron pa tayong mga national disaster, no? Pero bakit paulit-ulit? Kulang ang ganito, walang data ng ganito, walang perang ganito. Pero taon-taon ang daming binibigyan ng award sa mga disaster relief, everything. Hindi ho yun ang problem. Ang bottom line pa rin is the transformational leadership and organization. So the digital development activities, yung mga activity ninyo sa pagde-develop ng system, hindi sabihin, taon-taon yan, makikita mo, daming mga project related sa IT. Diba? Then development activity must be made valid. Yan. Nawala ang head of the agency, yung dating pinag-usapan, hindi na totoo. Tulad ngayon, malapit na mag-NC Secretary Nasan, pupusta tayo mga agad DICT. Pag nawala yan at may bumago na naman palit, marami na naman tayong ginawa na hindi na naman valid. So kailangan valid, verifiable, acceptable, and actionable with the principle. Yan, malinaw ang principle kasi sino umupo? Performance and practices that are adopted by the project organization, okay, to the internal and external environment. Magbago man ang internal at external environment ng ating project operation, pareho pa rin tayo na tinatayuan ng mga prinsipyo. Diyos ko, ang dami ko na nilagpasan na presidente mula kay ERAP hanggang ngayon. Prinsipyo pa rin ng anti-corruption. Prinsipyo pa rin ng anti-insurgency. Prinsipyo pa rin ng disaster. Yung pa rin ang paulit-ulit. Pero ang problema, hindi na naman uli kung may pera. Hindi problema pondo. Pagka gusto mo yan, bigyong pondo yan. Hindi rin problema gamit. Hindi rin problema tao. Ang problema ay alin, yung digital development activities are commonly understood. Dapat pare-pare tayo ng intindi the moment nagkaroon tayo ng digital development activities. Okay? Dahil yun, regardless kung sino nakaupo, regardless kung gaano kagaling yung nakaupo, sapagkat kahit ano pang sabihin niya, he still have to do the right thing to do and to do the right thing right. At para sa akin, ang mga tao sa gobyerno na dapat pinaninindigan nila yan, third level, yung mga may seso, Silang third level eh. Sila dapat ang naninindigan sa mga prinsipyo, naninindigan sa mga proseso. Kasi sila naiiwan eh. So digital development activities are commonly understood by the community of practitioners. Tsaka yung ginawa mo, hindi ka magaling kasi ikaw lang may alam. Hindi ka magaling kasi ikaw lang yung good or better. Eh pag ganyan yan, pag nawala ka, wala na rin yan. Inuwi mo na yung award sa bahay mo, pero yung ginawa mo, yung uupo, papalitan niya rin din yan. So sa digital development, meron tinatawag na 4 standard ho ito. Kasi hodang sino kayo. Basta the moment you take charge of digital development project, marunong kayo mag-analyze at magplano, mag-design at mag-develop, mag-deploy at mag-implement, mag-monitor at mag-evaluate. Alam nyo, nakakatuwa ang maraming agency, nagpalit ang sino man leadership. Ang gagawin lang nila dyan, i-re-jargonized. Naku, ang dami kong experience na ganyan. Baguhin lang nila mga termo nila, gagawa sila mga buzzword. Ang gagaling na gumawa ng mga kung ano, mga akit na mga pananalita. However, sa digital development, it does not matter how you create a new word when the meaning is the same. Dahil sa ending pa sa project, ang tatanungin pa rin sa'yo, very simple eh. Do you know how to analyze? Do you know how to plan? Do you know how to design? Hindi pa rin tatanungin sa'yo eh. Do you know how to deploy? Do you know how to implement? Do you know how to monitor and evaluate? And then, the globally recognized principle to guide. Malalaman if you're doing right when your work represents the acceptable digital principles. Design with the users, understand the existing ecosystem, design the scale, build for sustainability, be data-driven, use open standard, open data, open source and open innovation, reuse and improve, address privacy, security, and be collaborative. Established principle na po yan. So when digital or e-government project suddenly is not continuing or it is having problem, again, it is not because of the supplier, not because of the procurement. It is primarily because the principle were not adhered properly by the people who are supposed to be delivering. Now, the integrated project management should be integrated. It cannot be isang sikat lang na PM dyan. At sasabihin mo, bata, ang galing mo. Hindi mo ganyan. The integrated project management of digital development is understood by international standards. Merong international standard kung paano minamanage integratively ang project. Kung hindi po ninyo alam yon, ay alamin na ho ninyo. Kasi sabi sa international standard, ang isang integrated project management, meron niyang pre- at post-project activities. Tanong, may listahan yan. There is a list of the pre- and post-project activities. And regardless, whoever is the person in charge and whoever is the president, the vice president, the secretary, and the USEC, standard yun eh. If you don't observe it, then you do not know how to manage project. And there is initiation of a project. There is overseeing of the project and closing of the project. So these are the 4 elements of an integrated project management system. Irregardless, kahit nag-aaral ka pa sa Lasal, Ateneo o AIM. Ano ibig sabihin ng initiating a project? Paano dinidemonstrate? You know that the project is initiated when there is evaluation and approval of the project business case. This one. There is an evaluation and approval of the business case. Tanong, marunong ka bang gumawa ng business case? And then, do you know how to review a business case relative to digital transformation project? And then, somebody creates and authorizes the project organization. do you know how to organize the project and mandate the people who will be managing the project? And then, enable and agree a project management plan. Sabi ng isa, "Sir, dyan, isa lang yan." Nako, ang laman ng project management plan, ang pinaka-minimum, 10. May 10 project plan ang project management plan. Sabi, "Sir John, grabe ka naman." Hindi ka marunong project management. Pag sinabing project management, maraming plan yan sa ilalim. Alright? And then you have to define and communicate the project acceptance criteria. So simula pa lang ng project, malinaw na acceptance criteria. And then how it's going to be monitored and evaluated. There is already an agreement of how it is going. Hindi yung after the project, doon palang gagawa ang anak ng siopaw na agency ng MNE. Nakakatuwa yun, ha? Pero nung pinasubmit niya yung kanyang project, meron pang log frame. Tapos sa dulo, project pa ang MNE niya. At gagawa na naman iba instrumento para evaluatein. Hindi ho, from the start pa lang ng project yan sa initiation, meron ng MNE methodology yan. And as the project progressed, the acceptance criteria that was established on what to be monitored and evaluated are already known and agreed by the project organization. Then, pag sinabing overseeing the project, it means there is direction. You direct, and then there is control. Alright? Hindi mo pinababayaan na magkaroon ng issue yan. Before it happened, you have already established properly the risk to be keep watch. Then, manage the delivery. So pag sinabi mo, this particular activity shall start 2 months from now, it does. I remember in one of our projects in the Department of Education many years ago, when we were creating the DepEd computerization program plan, sabi ng secretary ko, kailan magsisimula yan? Sir, may budget na tayo, approve na. Alright. Okay? Pero when it is going to start? Sir, we can start anytime. Okay. Nag-start na. Ang unang supply, procurement. Sa calendar, yung secretary ko matatapos na ang term. So, nangyari, tapos na ang term niya, hindi pa nakaka-first base of procurement. So, ano ginawa namin? Inilabas namin sa loob ng DepEd. Binigay namin sa PS. Para doon ang pera, doon din ang continuity. Yan ang ibig sabihin na you manage the delivery. So, closing a project is demonstrated. How do you know the project is already closed? There is a handover to operation of the accepted product and the associated documentation. Alam mo na ayos na yung project na yan, the moment the operation group accept it already. And they are going to operate it already relative to the documentation. Hindi yung project, hinan-over na sa operation, puta nire-retoke pa ng operation para umandar yung sinabmit na yun. Nabayaran na, pero ini-improve pa, nire-retoke, inaayos. Ay, hindi close yung project na yan. Meron ng loko dyan. Review, and perform retrospection. So along the way sa project, you encountered a lot of issues, a lot of problems. And you have created workaround para ang tawag diskarte in order for that project to move. At the close of the project, all of those must be properly reported and documented. For what, Sir John? In order to serve as lessons learned and a material for continual improvement. And then number 3, get approval of the project closure and contract close. Madadaya ang mga supplier. Yung naiwan na lang na babayaran nila, kahit hindi mo nabayaran, tapos na. Maraming kayo na kung alam na project. Doon sa the way nila kinakata yung deliverable at pagbabayad, yung pinakadulong bayad, pagko-close ang contract, basically, wala nang kwento sa kanya. Kaya kahit minsan makikita mo maraming project, nabayaran na o kulang ang bayad, pero wala pa rin yung produkto. O if ever, meron mga computerization, palpak o sira. Naku, may alam ako niyan. Na-deliver na sa lahat ng school. After isang buwan, lahat ng diniliver na desktop may sira. Pero bayad na. Bakit? Si Sir may naiiwan pa. Wala nang kwenta yung naiiwan na yun. Kung nakabayad na ng 75% yan, technically yung 75% bawi na yun. So kailangan malinaw yun. Project governance is demonstrated. How do you know there is project governance in your project? Meron nagdi-decide. There is decision making. Then there is project assurance. Then there are policies, processes, and method. Then there are roles and responsibility. And there is a reporting. And there is contract with supplier and customer. Now, dito maraming mga nagtatalo, nakaluma na kayo, traditional project approach nyo, waterfall, kami, agile kami ay, innovative. Pag ganyan ho kayo magsalita, hindi ho kayo marunong sa project management approach. Ang waterfall traditional, may gamit. Ang agile, meron din. Depende. Pareho yung ginagamit. Wala ho diyang may mali o tama. Depende kung saan mo yan gagamitin. Okay? Hindi porke agile ka, ay magaling ka na. Hindi ho. Dahil traditional ka, ay makaluma ka. Hindi ho. Meron sa project management approach yan. So you can be predictive, linear, sequential of approach. Ito yung traditional. O maaari ikaw ay incremental, iterative, adaptive, or agile. O hybrid. Pinaghalo ang traditional at yung agile. So the project governance and management must be able to agree specific methodology guidance to be used by the project development team in order to start, progress, close the project with value, effectiveness, efficiency, and security. One time, merong isang project, ang yayabang ng mga development team. Para bang mga geopomande, pero ang mga astig talaga, kala mong sila ang nakakaintindi ng lahat ng mga akban extreme kung ano. Ang gagaling. Pero hanggang ngayon, hindi pa rin matapos yung project. Pero pag tinanong mo yan sa mga conference, agile kami, sir. So one time, I was asked by the director, sadyan, tulungan mo nga kami. Mailip up itong project. So I went there, and then I asked the guys, wala akong pakialam kung graduate kayo sa ganitong university, at kayo ay ganito, ganyan. Alright? Hindi yan ang pinag-uusapan dito. Ang tanong, yung ginawa nitong project na ito, ano yung approach na ginamit nyo para maging mabilis ang project nito? Hindi nyo sabi yan, sir, we are agile, sir. We are, in our, okay, fine. Sabi ko, paano kayo magiging agile? Anak na siopaw yung agency top-down. Eh di palagi kayo nag-meeting, yung sinasabi sa baba, palaging pinifilter ng taas. Eh di every time, pag ginagawa niya na, pagdating sa taas, mali. Pero yung ibaba, okay. O paano kayo maging agile? So pwede ba, burahin niyo muna sa utak niyo yan. Intindihin niyo yung environment niyo. Ang environment niyo, decision maker, hindi agile. Ang inyong decision maker, top-down, hierarchical. Pwede ba sundan niyo muna kung ano sinasabi nun? Huwag niyo muna pasinin yung sinasabi ng ibaba. Bakit? Pag pinansin nyo yan, hindi apuntas yan. Paikot-ikot lang kayo, pupolitikahin lang kayo nasa itaas. Para hindi ma-open yung ibaba, hindi nila, lang nila, kukwentuhan lang yan. Si ibaba naman, reklamo naman na reklamo. Para masabi na meron silang ginagawa. O di hanggang ngayon, umiikot yung project niya. So, use now the waterfall. Iwanan nyo muna yan. O kaya hybrid. O doon nung makinig, inayos namin. O di kausapin nyo muna yung itaas. Itaas, ano ba ang gusto mo? Ano ba ang pinaka-vision? Ano ba ang pinaka-gusto mong mangyari? Okay. Hindi, kausapin nyo muna ang ibaba. Sir, pag kinausap namin ang ibaba, baka matapos ng term mo, hindi pa tapos. Ikaw, sir, ano ba ang gusto mo? Dahil ikaw, sir, ang gagawa ng memorandum circular eh. Yan. Hindi naman, sir, yung unit head na yan eh. Eh, misa kahit magaling pa yan, sir, kung tingin mo, hindi makakasira sa karir mo, hindi mo na pakikinggan yan eh. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng project context. So, example of traditional ay waterfall, B-model, M-base, MSF, SDLC. Example, mga agile, Scrum, Extreme, Kanban, okay? And then there are technology or service provider with adapted delivery. So example, may isang agency, yung kanilang HRIS, inadapt nila ang Human Resource Information System ni SAP at saka yung Financial Management System ni SAP. So, paano may mamanage yung project na yun? Huwag ka nang manghula. Dahil si SAP may sariling project management methodology. So pag-aralan mo na lang yun, sundin mo. Huwag ka na magmarunong. Pag-aralan mo yung project management methodology ng SAP para ma-implement mo yung project na yun sa agency. Meron akong ganyang alam na agency. May natigas no assistant secretary ang sarili niya. Kami, sundin nyo. Gobyerno kami. Sabi sa kanya ng SAP, kayo na maging SAP. Di sinunod si gobyerno. Natapos ang project, bayad sila ng bayad sa change request. Yan ang buhay ng consultant. Hanggat hindi na-establish yan, change request ka ng change request, bayad ka ng bayad. Di later, na tapagtanto ng ASIC, dapat pala sinunod na namin ang workflow nyo. Kung hindi naman makakasira. Yun, ang ibig sabihin, be humble enough, pakinggan mo muna yung marunong, sir. Kahit ikaw pang may makapangyarihan. Dahil sa dulo, sir, luluhod ka din dyan eh. Hindi matatapos yung project. Bakit? Siya yung provider mo eh. Siya yung technology mo eh. Kaya yung iba, hindi nagaganyan. Nag-open source sila kasi may diskarte. Pero the moment na nag-acquire ka ng technology, ngayon problema mo sa cloud computing eh. May mga default. Kaya yan ang pag-aaralan nyo ngayong araw. Then the successful performance, ang isang leadership at management, alam ba ninyo na 20 dapat ang alam nyo? Pag kayo nagsabi project manager kayo, dapat alam niyo itong 20 na to. Kung hindi niyo alam yan, boss, hindi kayo project manager, boss. Kasi itong 20 knowledge item na ito, kailangan mo yan para maintindihan mo ang project requirement, project processes, at ang project documentation. 20 yan, sir. Alright? So, the digital development leadership, alright, must have the applicable tool para sa modeling, methodology, and documentation. Work plan, risk assessment, business case. Ang kagandahan ng mga ito, may mga template na yan eh. Hindi binibigyan ng medal yung na gumawa ka, ang galing-galing mo. Ang ending pa rin, i-check kung tama ginawa mo sang-ayon doon sa template nung in-adapt ninyong project management methodology. Yan ho yun. The project roles and organization, paano mo i-organize ang project? Hindi mo rin kailangan manghula, pre. Bakit? May standard need. The International Standard on Project Management, name the key roles to support integrated management of digital development. So, sino ang sponsoring organization? World Bank. Sino ang project sponsor? Si DBM. Sino ang project manager? Si ASEC. Sino ang work project leader? Si director. Sino ang project team manager? Si chief. Sino ang project team? Sino ang project specialist? Boss, yan lang, regardless kung anong mga role, pangalan, lagay nyo dyan. Pero yan ang 7 na pinaka-key role sa project management. At yan, hindi mo kalahulaan kasi ang mga standard nakadefine na kung ano trabaho niyan, ano responsibility niyan. The digital transformation project is not succeeded or failed by technologies or supplier, but by the project transformational leadership and organization who determines the right things to be done and for the right things to be done right. Successful digital development project of a government agency or business enterprise is simply measured, take note, by the valued outcome realized by the authorized and budgeted project deliverables. Tandaan nyo, hindi porke ang galing ninyo nakapag-set up ng Tech for Ed, okay na kayo. Ang measurement niyan is valued outcome. Kaya tuwa ako dito sa MC1, tuwing nagre-report na niya. Kami ang region na we have earned. Yan! Pakita mo magkano kinita, magkano naging pakinabang, Ilang tao na ngayon na yumaman dahil sa Tech for Ed. Yon ang ibig sabihin ng valued outcome. Pag sinabi mo may free wifi, ilan ang negosyo ang na-create? Nagtawi-tawi si Buto dahil merong internet. Yan ang valued outcome. Successful project performance is not about someone. Hindi yan tungkol sa isang tao na every year binibigyan niyo ng mga award. It's not about someone or something that is good, better, or best. But the agreement of the completed work. Sinabi mo, kailangan magkaroon ng free wifi in 2016. O yun, nasaan na? Sabi mo, buong Pilipinas, nasaan na? Yun ang ibig sabihin. Completed work activities and result. Stakeholders define value and to be created. Okay? Sabi ni Dito, bibigyan namin kayo talaga ng mabilis sa internet. Tandaan nyo pag hindi nagawa ni Dito yan, mapopurpit yung kanyang ban. Yun. At pag sinabi niya sa ganitong taon, lahat ng lugar sa buong Pilipinas, meron na yung broadband. Pangako yan ng third telco. Ang malas lang ng third telco, pag hindi niya na-comply, hindi yun ang disadvantage niya. Meron siyang inilagak na pera na pwedeng kunin ng gobyerno na penalty niya. Yan. So yan ang ibig sabihin ng Digital Development Project Management Principles, practices. Alright? So yan po yung kahapon. And then I provided you with materials. Yung aking ito, di ba? I show you and then the digital principle guidance. Yes, sir. All right? Kamusta na, Rod? Okay ba? Okay?
Okay lang, sir.
All right. So today, we are going to discuss a very important topic. Pag hindi ito alam ng mga government of agency, ay, malaki ang problema. Ito tanong, ang mga agency nyo ba bumibili pa ngayon ng mga server? Type nga ninyo, one kung yes. Are your agency are still now buying servers, computer servers? Are your agency buying computer servers? Okay. Number 2, is your agency migrating all of their systems development, all of your information system sa GovCloud o sa isang cloud computing service provider? If your answer is no, and if your answer is yes, that you are still setting up your servers and everything, you are violating the cloud first policy of the Republic of the Philippines. Your head of the agency is violating the cloud first policy of the Republic of the Philippines. Alam nyo, kung kayo pa rin namimili at hindi kayo nagmamigrate ng system development patungo sa cloud computing platform, your agency is violating a memorandum, a circular. Meron po na circular. Alam niyo ang consequence? Pwede kayo hindi nabigyan ng budget. Ang ISP niyo, hindi pwedeng i-approve. If your approach is still procuring servers for your on-site systems. All right? So, talaga ka, sir, dyan? Oo. Totoo yun. Dahil hindi ko opinion yun. Ito yun. Sabihin, yung head of the agency na yan, yung IT director niya, hindi niya pinag-aralan ang Department Circular 2017-017, parang pa ng 2007. Lahat ng ahensya ng gobyerno, bureau offices ng national government, including the Constitutional Commission, Judiciary, SUC, prescribe the Philippine government cloud response. prescribe the Philippine. Kaya nga yung EBPLS road, cloud computing yan. Magmamigrate talaga ang EBPLS sa cloud computing. Ang inyong mga learning management system, mga web, ang inyong mga email, mawawala na kayo ng mga email server. Pupunta lahat yan sa cloud. Bakit siya dyan? Ito yung regulasyon eh. Tandaan nyo, RA 10844. Ang tanging may kapangyarihan lamang sa buong Pilipinas na magpo-formulate ng National Policy Plan and Program o Guideline sa development at gamit ng IT at kung anong gagamiting technology ay ang DICT, hindi yung agency mo. Bagkat merong RA 10844. Nung panahon siguro ng CICT at ng ICTO, okay ka lang. Bakit? Naka-under sila saan? Sa Office of the President, then later sa DOST. Ngayon, hindi. Sila ay lehitimong executive office na merong mandate. So, sabi rito, responsibility ng DICT na i-harmonize, i-coordinate ang lahat ng ICT plan. Kaya nga ho, nire-require kayo ng ISSP. So, yung ISSP ninyo, kung wala yan, hindi kayo i-entertain ng DBM. Pag nag-submit kayo ng inyong budget sa IT na isasalang nyo sa Kongreso. Sapagkat batas na po yan. Sapagkat yung DICT mandated na by law. Pwede kayong sitahin. At pwedeng hindi kayo bigyan ng pondo. At pwedeng questionin ng DICT, bakit kayo binigyan ng DBM? Kaya niya. Bakit? Equal na sila eh. Equal ang power nila under sa Office of the President. At meron siyang mandate. Hindi pwedeng maipakita ng DBM. Anong mandate mo para aprobahan mo ang IT project niya, DBM? Wala sa kanyang mandate. Nasa DICT. So, sinabi dito sinabi, ang strategy ng gobyerno, cloud computing. Ito nakakatuwa eh. Training siya sa cloud computing. Rod, hindi niya alam, yung mismong memo, yun na training. Sinulat na dito kung ano cloud computing, boss. Ano ang essential characteristic? Pag-aralan mo na lang kung ano ibig sabihin niya. Ang problema kasi kung minsan, nagre-react sa memo na hindi naman nabasa. If ever mang hindi niya nabasa, hindi naman niya naintindihan. Pero pag nagtalumpati, kung saan siya kumukuha. Boss, be fair to the agency. Dinefine ng circular na to, ano ang ibig niya sabihin ng cloud computing. Ano ang karakteristik. Kaya kung magtuturo kayo ng cloud computing dyan, ito ang magiging basis ko ano dapat na ituro ninyo. Bakit? May legal basis. Alright? And then, ano ba ang mga deployment model ng cloud computing? So, kahaba-haba pa ng seminar yan. Ito, sinulat na dito eh. Sino magsiseminar sa inyo sa cloud computing, siguraduhin mo, sinusunod niya ito. Kasi sinulat niya rito kung ano ibig sabihin ng deployment model. Private, virtual, community, public, hybrid, government cloud. Kung hindi ganyan ang resource person yung nagsasalita ng cloud computing, pahintuin nyo na yan. Dahil hindi nyo magagamit yung itinuturo niya. Dahil nakasulat na mismo dito sa circular, yung provision on how to understand cloud computing. And then, eto maraming mga tao, sigurado ba yan, Sir John? Yung cloud computing na yan? Kasi yung nagsasalita, ang alam niya, hindi cloud. Kasi yung IT director, ang alam niya, nasa tabi niya yung mga server. Tama ba? Ang mga programmer niya, nasa harapan niya. Ang mga server na siniset up. O, kaya ang feeling niya, safe. Pero boss, sinulat dito, assurance approach. It is a shared responsibility. Right? And then, describe ngayon, ano ba yung cloud first policy na yan? Ang declared policy, ang government adapt for the government agency to consider cloud computing solution as the primary part. Take note ang ginamit na word, Rod. Primary part of their infrastructure planning and procurement. Tanong, marunong ba ang inyong ISSP planner at ang inyong procurement sa cloud computing? Kung hindi, paano nyo ma-implement ang Section 5? Ganda, no? Government consider cloud computing as their primary in their infrastructure planning and procurement. Kaya kung bumibili pa rin kayo ng server dyan, hindi nyo nabasa ito. All governments shall adopt cloud computing as the preferred ICT deployment strategy. Take note, for your administrative use and delivery of government online services. Patay ang DSWD dahil meron siya sariling data center somewhere. Lagot ang mga agency na may sariling mga services para dito. Sapagkat ima-migrate mo yan sa cloud. And then, sinulat niya rito ang mga benefits. Bakit mo yun gagawin? Then, ano ang role ng GovCloud? Alam niyo itong GovCloud, marami kong naririnig dyan eh. Kinikriticize yan. Anong malin na Alam niyo, pag ako nakarinig yan, simple lang sagot ko. Ikaw bang nagkikriticize sa DICT sa GovCloud? Marunong ka ba? Kung sa iyo ba ibigay ang trabaho, kaya mo i-set up yung GovCloud. At by the way, ano ba itsura ng GovCloud na sinasabi mo? Baka naman ang reference mo yung cloud ni Globe, cloud ni PLDT, cloud ni Amazon. Baka na hindi tayo pareho. Minsan marami niyang ganyan ron, di ba? Ikirain na, wala nga mga oras yun. Pagkatapos yung mga supplier mismo, kinikriticize yung DICT. Ang problema sa mga nagkikriticize na yan, masarap din, bigay siya o kayo gumawa. Tingnan ko nga kung nakakaintindi kayo ng integrated government portal. Kaya nyo rin gawin. Naku, napakarami ko nang nakita dyan na nagpunta dyan sa ICT, si ICT pa, ICT. Ngayon, DICT. Sa awa ng Panginoon Diyos, hanggang ngayon, hindi pa nga nila matapos-tapos yung mga sinimulang panahon pa na NCC. Pero kung makapag-critic, akala mo, ganun na lang. Huwag ko kayong magaganyan. Malinaw ho yung regulation, Section 7. At kung kayo naman ang nasa poder, kailangan maintindihan nyo na kailangan nyo. At merong accreditation process sa kung sino man ang inyong cloud service provider. Okay? Kung sino ang magpo-provide sa inyo, si Azure, si Amazon, si Google Cloud, o kung sino pa. Sino? Si Bibal. Okay? Kung sino man. Kailangan niya accredited yan. Merong accreditation process. Alright? And then, napaka-importante, sabi na isang kakilala ko, John, mapapagkatiwalaan ba natin ang gobyerno sa cloud? Sabi ko, bakit hindi? Bakit hindi mo ba kakatiwalaan ng gobyerno? Ang tanong ko sa iyo, pag ikaw tinanong ng gobyerno, paano mo isi-secure ang data ng gobyerno? Sige nga. Nagtanong sa akin, binilikan ko ng tanong. Sir, paano mo isi-secure ang data ng gobyerno? How can you secure the data of the government? As if when you ask that question, you have an answer and you have a sure answer to speak. Section 3 of the circular, you secure the data of government inside the cloud if you instituted data classification. Question, are the data in your data servers properly classified relative to a government recognized standard of data classification? Can you show me in your database table the attribute elements that classifies the data in your server relative to the data security classification of the Republic of the Philippines? If you cannot say that to me, so how can you say that the data in your own server is secure? Yeah, that's the first item. The data in the public sector has an attributional classification standard. Sinulat dito. Yan, oh. Ano ang mga data na nasa Tier 1? Ano ang data na nasa Tier 2? Ano ang mga data sa Tier 3? Meron ho yang implication. The manner those data will be hosted online. How those data are going to be stored in the cloud. If you do not have those reference, then you do not know what you are talking about. All right? So, they have stated here already the corresponding classification and how they are going to be deployed in the cloud. Kaya huwag mong sasabihin sa akin na, Sir John, secure ba yung ano ng DICT na yan? Boss, huwag kang ganyan. Ibig sabihin, hindi mo nabasa yung circular. Dahil ang DICT, the moment sinet up nila kalang cloud services, sila muna unang compliant dito. Yan ang unang test. Saka na, Padre, paano mo malalamang alam mo, hindi mo nga sinulat yung sinasabi mo. Nagkikriticize ka, tinanong kita, hindi mo makita. Eh si DICT, sinulat na niya eh. Kung paano niya isi-secure. Tapos tatanungin mo pa kung masisecure ba niya. Alam ba niya? Natural. Alam niya. Ito na sabi Sir John. Eh nasa memo niya eh. Nasa circular niya. Good as batas yan eh. Bakit? Eh mandate by Luis eh. RA 10844. Sasabihin mo hindi niya alam ang gagawin niya. Naku, marami akong ganyang narinig sa mga supplier ng mga services. Alright? Kaya mga taga-DICT, pag-aralan nyo to so that you will have confidence. The moment you are asked, secure ba yung Gov Cloud nyo? Siyempre naman. Dahil alam na, ang unang trust eh. Papakatiwalaan ba namin kayo? Ako tanungin nyo, oo. Bakit? Masusulat ba niya yan? Hindi niya naintindihan niya. Pagka siningil mo ang the moment you question the Gov Cloud, whoever is in, hindi ko sabihin ng pangalan, whoever is in charge of the Gov Cloud, he should implement this. Then the next question, may security, Sir John? My question to you is, what do you mean by security? Section 10, no? The section 10 of the circular provided you already ng unang step, classify the data. Then you can secure it. Classify the data. Hoy, IT director, yan bang database mo in your opisina has the proper data classification that will make us secure it? Oh, what is the standard you use? Ayan. And then there is what you call security framework. There is a security framework. Okay? Merong security framework. Nasa section 11. Kaya pag sinabi niyo, how do we know na secure ang ating cloud? Tanong ko naman sa inyo nagtanong. Pagbalik ko sa itanong, alam mo ba kung paano? Ano hanapin mo sa DICT? Ano hanapin mo sa kanya? Para masabi mo may security. Sinulat na nga ng DICT, section 11. Ilan yan? 8. Dapat may personal security. Dapat may physical. Dapat may business continuity. Dapat may inventory at configuration. Dapat may data encryption. Dapat may access control. Dapat may network security monitoring. Dapat mayroong system security and integrity. Sinulat na po si. Kaya kung sino man yung in charge dyan sa Gov Cloud ng DICT, yan ang sisigilin sa kanya. That is how going to explain. You trust the Gov Cloud of the Republic of the Philippines. Why? Because our system agrees to this requirement. And you have to demonstrate it so that agency of government and the citizen will trust you. Do you know that the national ID system of PLCs, ang deployment and development at deployment approach niyan ay cloud computing? They are going to use public cloud, and the sensitive personal data of the citizen will be stored in the Gov Cloud. Ikaw, IT director, yan bang system mo dyan sa agency mo? Pag pumunta ba ako sa server room mo, meron ka nito? Kung hindi mo may pakita yan, wala kang karapatang i-criticize yung DICT kung kaya niyang gawin. 8 yan, no? So the moment you examine whether there is security in the cloud, make sure you understand your question and you can provide the indicators of security. And for me, my confidence for government agency like DICT to do it, because they have established the guidance. Mahihiya naman siguro naman niya kung hindi niya ito gagawin. Sinulat niya yan. Then, security framework, 11. Maniniwala ba kayo? Nilista pa niya yung standard niya Ayan To make sure there is security control in the cloud deployment, there is a security assurance requirement. And then, kung sino man ang in-charge ng GovCloud sa DICT, in-implement niya yan. Ikaw, IT director ng agency, yan bang mga on-site server mo, nagko-comply ka ba rito sa ISO 27001? Kung may payment gateway ka, PCI DSS, SOC 1, SOC 2, o naintindihan mo ba yan? 2708, i-check na natin yung system mo. Yung bang mga data file mo dyan, yung file server mo, yung mga document mo dyan, yung mga directory, yung mga hard disk mo, meron ka bang encryption system based sa AES, 128-bit, TDS, RSA? Kung wala, kung hindi mo may papaliwanag yan, wala kang karapatang criticize yung taga-DICT na may hawak ng GovCloud. Dahil supposedly, they have to implement that in the GovCloud. At tandaan mo, by law, you are already required to migrate yourself to GovCloud or to any accredited cloud service provider. That is the requirement of the implementing rules and regulation code. All right, next. Sabi ng isang director na kilala ko, John, pag ginamit natin si Amazon, si Microsoft Azure, o si Google Cloud sa data storage, alam mo naman, ang mga data center niyan wala sa Pilipinas. Nandoon niya sa Singapore, Indonesia o Malaysia. Kasi mas mura doon. Mas mura ang data center kumpara mo din sa Pilipinas. Dito sa Pilipinas, kaya ang napakahirap dito dahil napakamahal ang kuryente. Pero sa mga lugar na yun, so mangyayari, ang mga data storage ng data ng Pilipinas, doon naka-reside. Paano yan? Boss, Section 12. Section 12. Ayan. Data sovereignty. Yung tanong na yun ng director na yun. Tanong yun ng data sovereignty. Kaya, pag ikaw pumirma ng service level agreement diyan kay Amazon, kay Microsoft, dapat naiintindihan mo yung provision relative sa data sovereignty, Section 12. At tandaan nyo, obligado na ang mga agency na mag-migrate. Migration policy. So, sinulat dito kung paano kayo magmamigrate patungo sa cloud. Then, data ownership. Sir John, yung data namin, sino may-ari? Kasi na-share na yung data na yan Katulad yung COVID. Sino ba may-ari nung mga data na kinuha doon sa QR? Sino? Si Multisys, yung may-ari ng StaySafe? Si DILG o si DOH? Meron na namang article si Yusek, si ASEAN, dati Secretary Rio. Binabanata na naman niya yan relative sa data ownership. Pero ni-resolve na yan na Section 14. Kaya kayong mga LGU, mag-ingat kayo sa mga third-party service provider na nasa cloud ang services. Okay? Hindi porke libre yung system at ang data naka-host doon sa third-party, okay na kayo. Baka ma-demanda kayo later sa data ownership pag nagkaroon ng problema yung system na yan. Kaya basahin nyo itong memorandum na ito, circular na ito. Alright? So meron ditong mga standard that you need to implement in order for you to. Then, open data. At isipin lang niyo sa COVID. Isa sa naging problema ng COVID, yung information ng lahat ng may sakit, lahat na nagkasakit ng COVID, na nakakompine ngayon sa ospital. Kung makuha mo yung data na yun, i-connect mo ngayon siya sa lahat ng mga mall, lahat ng merong COVID tracing. Ma-identify mo na ngayon sino sa mga may sakit ngayon ang nagpunta ro sa mga mall na yun. Ganun dapat ang logic, no? Pero tanungin mo, DOH, meron ba siyang central databases na ang lahat ng record ng ospital ay naka-aggregate sa gitna? Na pwede mo magamit yan at ma-connect mo sa isang COVID tracing system. Sige nga. Ito pa isa. Ito lahat yung COVID tracing system ng lahat ng taong nagpunta, kinunan ng temperature sa loob ng SM. Pwede ko ba ngayong araw tanungin si SM, SM, ilan ang total na tao na pumasok sa mall na kinunan nyo ng temperature na ang level ay 36 and above? And then, yung information na yun, i-connect ko sa database ng DOH ng lahat ng testing center. At pagbabanggain ko yung data at makikita ko ngayon, ilan lahat ang naging positive, ay makikita ko ngayon, real time ha? Real time. Walang encoder ha? Real time na pagdudugtungin ko. Yan ang challenge. Yan ang challenge. I remember many years ago, nung nagkaroon ng Health for All, yung lahat ng mahihirap, bibigyan ng assistance ng PhilHealth, ni-register sila sa PhilHealth, na tigda 2,000 ang pwede sa kanilang magkaroon ng e-consulta. Nakakatuwa yun. Kasi ang PhilHealth, hindi siya dinesign para doon. Dinesign siya sa mga empleyado. Na yung empleyado, ini-enroll ng kanilang employer. Tama? Ini-enroll. Ang tanong, sino mag-enroll doon sa mga mahirap? Mga PAWD. Walang ganong infrastructure si PhilHealth para gawin yun. So ano naisip? Merong 4Ps ang DSWD. So yung data na tinatawag nilang house of targeting, yun ang ginamit. Sapagkat tumatanggap naman ng assistance yan, doon siya yun. O ano nangyari? Nung ginamit ng PhilHealth yung datang yun, nako, nagkaroon pa sila ng problema sa isa't isa. Bakit? Pagdating sa field office ng PhilHealth, nung makita nila yung mahirap, hindi mahirap. O di eto ngayon, magtatakipan ka na. So magmula nun, nilinis na. Nagkasilipan. Eh maraming agency, hindi gugustuhin yan. Yung data mo, gagamitin isa pang agency, then pupulaan ka lang na madumi. Sasabihin niya, hindi na mali. Yan, nako marami kong kwentong ganyan. Kaya yung mga interagency data exchange, bakit? Eh wala kasing standard booking. Pero the moment na nangyari yan, yan ang pangarap ng DICT, ng EGOV, ng EGMP, na magkaroon tayo niyan. Busa, magmula pa panahon ni GMA hanggang ngayon, yung government portal na yan, topic na yan eh. Wala kang government portal. Kung makikita mo sa government portal, link ng website. Diyos ko naman, boss, no? Hindi portal yan. Para ka lang naglagay ng dyaryo sa online at nilagay mo link, tapos kiklik mo, pupunta ka ron. Pagdating mo doon sa agency, wala naman siyang online service. Ano, silbi ng portal na yan. Ang layo doon sa objective. So, magagawa mo lang yan, sabi ng ating EGMP, kung ilalagay mo sa cloud. And then, hindi kayo basta-basta kukuha ng Amazon, ng Google, o kay Multisys, o kung sino man dyan. Kasi merong accreditation process. Minsan nakakalimutan ng mga head of the agency na meron silang rules eh. Then malalaman lang na pag meron ng comment, may pumula na, magagalit pa doon sa nagpula. Samantalang kinulang naman ang attention niya doon sa rules. Then meron kang baseline security controls. Kita niyo na, no? Paano doon? Ito, nakakatuwa to eh. May isa akong client na humingi ng tulong. At least umamin. Ako natutuwa ako pag umamin ng isang makapangyarihan na may kapangyarihan siya, pero hindi niya ganun kaalam. Dahil yun ang honest. Yun ang talagang totoong matinong tao. Pero yung may kapangyarihan ka, tapos paninindigan mo ang kapangyarihan para alam mo na rin yung dapat alam, ay mali. Kasi hindi ka naman isinilang na alam mo yan eh. Alright? So, kailangan ganun po yun. Then, technical, dapat marunong ka dyan. Sino ba marunong sa cloud? Di ba yung nakagawa na? Ba? Ang pinakamagaling yan, mga cloud engineer. Ang problema ko sa agency mo ba, merong cloud service engineer. Ito, challenge, pinagagawa siya ng service level agreement. E di yan nangyari, uy, bahala ka na, Microsoft pa. Baka meron kayo ng template dyan, pag-aaralan na lang ng legal namin. Sabi ko, boss, paano malalaman ng legal mo dyan kahit na valedictorian pa sa Lasal ay sa UP yan? Malay niya, maghahanap din ng kopyahan yan. So dapat pag-aralan mo yung standard sa service level agreement. Merong standard dyan, Dusi. Alright? Ituturo ko sa inyo yun. Pag-aralan mo, and then doon mo yung alamin. Yan. Service level agreement. And then, boss, ito, pinakamabigat. Yung transitory provision. Parang ito hindi alam ng maraming agency. Sinulat ito 2017, ha? All government with existing, takdan nyo, kung meron kayong existing na data center, kailangan maging part kayo ng GovCloud infrastructure. From 2017, 2 years to become compliant with Section 10 and 11. Tanong, compliant na ba yung agency nyo? Dito sa DICT Circular 2017-002, ngayon, mga kapatid, ang bagsek na wala na si Rodolfo Salalima. Ang sekretary ngayon, si Gringo Hunasan, na siya ang promotor ng tinatawag mong Digital Philippines. Digital Philippines. Digital Government. In-amend niya yan, nagkaroon ng amendment. Mga taga-DICT, dapat memorize nyo to. Circular 010-2020. In-amend itong pinakita ko sa inyo kanina. Kaya kung kayo IT Director, Head of the Agency, dapat nabasa nyo to. Bakit? Magkakaroon kayo ng problema sa inyong acquisition, development ng inyong mga IT project. Sapagkat ito, in-amend niya yan. Ayan, no? So may authority ba siya? Obligado ba yung Head of the Agency nyo sumunod dito? Natural. RA 1084 yan po siya. Doon ang gagaling ang authority niya. Ito, nakakatuwa. Tingnan natin yung kanyang ito, nakatuwa. Countries across the world, Singapore, have adopted cloud first and cloud migration policy. And those countries, their government use of cloud services and cloud computing make them effective, timely in their service, cost-efficient, secure, and up-to-date. Ang kanilang deployment, yan ang basis. Okay? So, hindi, sana sinasabi sa inyo ng taga-DICT, okay? Luma na to. Gagawin natin kung ang objective natin ay maging effective. Yan. Kung ang objective natin ay magkaroon ng digital system at online services, so that there will be faster, efficient, economical rendition of quality public service through the use of ICT. Yan ang napakatinding provision nitong circular na to. At dahil dyan, ang ginawa ng grupo ni Secretary Hunasan, alright? Okay? Boss, in-amend nila. Talaga siya dyan? Oo. Pero ganun pa din. Lahat ng opisina sa executive, GOCC, FGU, SUC, kayo ay cover kasama yung inyong mga cloud service provider. Kailangan sumunod dito. Boss, kailangan sumunod dito. Ang pagbabago lang, hindi nilagay na obligado ang Kongreso. May historya yan. Yung judiciary, tsaka yung mga constitutional commission at yung ombudsman. Kasi ito sa nauna, straight jacket lahat. Dito, nilagay lang, encourage to adopt. Okay? Pero alam nyo, the moment ang buong gobyerno ay naging cloud, susunod din yan sila. Bakit? Walang makikipag-usap sa kanila. Para, para sila magde-data sharing. Wala sila sa common platform. Kaya ultimately, susunod din yan. Hindi, ito na. Ang provision. Lahat ng inyong database, lahat ng inyong application system, alright, na ginagamit, kinakailangan mag-adapt ng cloud computing. So patay na si IT Director. Lahat ng kanyang file storage system dyan sa kanyang opisina, nasa on-site na data center niya, magmamigrate sa cloud. Tapos, alam kaagad ng grupo ni Secretary na mayroong mga IT Director dyan at mga head of the audit sasabihin, oh, hindi kami accepted kami dyan kasi ganito kami, ganyan kami. Meron kasi kami ganito na, ganyan-ganyan. Ba? Ang galing ng gumawa nito. Sinabi niya, pwede kang maging exempted. You can be exempted. Basahin mo ang 5.2 ng section 1.2. In the storage, use, and processing of data, all government agencies and instrumentality shall adopt cloud computing as the preferred ICT deployment strategy, method, or technology, take note, for the administrative use and delivery of government services. So boss, wala kang kawala. Then nilagay niya, by way of exception, IT deployment method other than cloud computing may be utilized. Pero ang tindi, provided that the agency present, wow, kailangan i-present mo ang isang adequate, reasonable, at well-reasoned, ganda ng sumulat dito, well-reasoned justification that the conclusion will say there are no other cloud computing deployment strategy method can meet your requirement. Patay ka dyan. Patay. Hindi totoo yan. Why? Because hindi ka naman nakakaiba sa iba eh. If you have your accounting system, HRIS, yung mga registration system mo, yung mga email mo, ay boss. And then, okay pa rin, sabi mo, yes, check. Number 1, check. It propose use of alternative. Kailangan may itong mabigat na terminology na ginamit, Rod. Yung sumulat na ito. Superior. Ang tindi talaga ng bata ni Yusek Kaintika. Superior. Superior dapat yung hawak yung nasa data center mo, Director. To cloud computing based on the following. Nilistan niya, dapat yung alternative mo, superior ang security, superior ang feature, superior sa effectiveness, at superior sa deployability. So you may say letter A, but still you have to justify it relative to letter B. You will have a lot of extensive research to do just to say that your current setup of on-site is better than cloud computing. Antindi, no? Then, whenever deemed necessary, pwede ka lang mag-set up ng sarili mo kung ang purpose backup. Yan, no? So, pwede ka magkaroon ng on-site data center kung ang purpose niya, redundancy or backup. Yun lang. Ito ang mabigat. Oy, taga-DICT, ILCDB. Kala nyo nakaligtas kayo ha. Nasa circular na ito, trabaho nyo, 5.5. Gusto po. Mga taga-DICT, ILCDB, regional, provincial, central, 5.5. For capacity building and development of the essential skill relating to compliance with local international standard and best practices for ICT design, infrastructure security, all government agencies shall provide adequate human resource development for select personnel to undergo appropriate training, seminar, and certification courses and program and of at DICT or its partner institution. So Rod, meron ka na ba diyang programa? in compliance with 5.5. Kaya isinama ko yan sa course na ito. Yan ang reason. Alright? So, ngayon, Rod, pwede mo na sabihin, yes po! Katatapos lang namin ngayong Webes. Pag-uusapan po namin ng cloud computing. Nag-comply na si Rod. Okay? Ang focal ng DICT, ILCDD sa class MC1. Okay? And then, yung data classification. Yan. Sabi nila, Sir John, merong lumang regulation sa data classification sa Republic of the Philippines. May ganyan, gumayon sa akin. Ano yun? Obsolete na ba yun? Ibig sabihin yung nagtanong na yun, hindi nabasa itong memong to. Diyos ko, nakasulat to dito. Ayan o. Yung Memorandum Circular 78 series noong 1964 na inamend noong 96, noong 1968. Dito, kinaklasify yung mga record. Secret, top secret, confidential. Yun. Hindi na ba yun? Yun pa din ho yun. Pero gumawa po ng standard para gamitin sa cloud computing. Yan. Tandaan nyo ha. So meron akong narinig na ganyan. Ang haba pa ng discussion nyo sa akin. Sa dulo lang, nung sinabi ko na, Sir, tama ho yung sinasabi nyo. Susundin ho nyo yan. Pero you are going to follow it, sir, using the data classification. Alright? Ng Department Circular 27002. Dahil, sir, nung ginawa ho yan, yan din ho ang pinagkopyahan. In-upgrade lang sa level ng cloud. Okay na, sir? Kaya yung classification mo, sir, ng top secret, ang tawag na ngayon dyan, sir, highly sensitive government data. Kaya, sir, sa electronic, may tag yan. Kung sa manual, meron niyang stamp. Sa digital, meron dyan tag. Then, sir, yung mga tinatawag mo, sir, na confidential above sensitive government data. Kung sinusunod mo yung mga rules na yan noong 1964-68, masusundan mo yan, sir. Pero ngayon, sir, sa digital data, may tag yan, sir. Sa manual, may stamp yung folder, may stamp yung document. Dito, sa database, sir, nakatag yan. Malinaw tayo, mga kapatid, na? And then, sensitive government data, sir, yan yung mga may tag na restricted. Yan. So, yung record, kung kayo record manager dyan, yung mga nakatag na restricted, ang tawag dyan sa data classification sa cloud computing, sensitive government data. At yun namang public document, unclassified, ang tawag ng sensitive data. So yan ho ang classification. Na inadapt din yung sinabi doon sa 1964 at 1968 na memo na yon na ginagamit ng mga record manager ng mga agency. So wala ko kayong pinagdapat yan. Nung matapos ko after I done the explanation, wala na. Tahimik na ho yung mama. Ang tanong ko nila sa kanya, is your database that are containing this digital document classified in accordance with data classification? Dahil kung sumagot siya sa akin ng yes, Sir, can you show me how you have done it? Can you please show it? Kung hindi mo may pakita, sir, sabihin, you're just trying to pretend na alam mo. But remember, boss, that's a law. It's a requirement of the implementing policy provided by the ICT, who has the mandate to make sure. Right? Then, after this, my friend, is a security framework. Yan, to, security. Matindi ang naging amendment dito. Kasi nga, the question of public, hybrid, and private. So, yung national ID, would you allow Microsoft Azure that may be the storage of the record of the Filipino citizen, store the data somewhere outside of the Philippines? The answer is no. Why? because those data are considered in the data classification. Yan, babalik ka uli sa data classification. How do you consider the biometric information of a Filipino citizen? Kino-consider yon as what? As what? Highly sensitive or above sensitive data. Yan ang gamit nito. So, sa kontrata kay Amazon, kay Azure, o kay Google Cloud, for the storage ng data ng Pilipino, hindi nila po pwedeng ang data center na mag-host nun ay wala sa Pilipinas. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng data sovereignty. Yung mga public document, yung mga unclassified, yun pwede kahit sa ang server sa buong mundo mo ilagay. Bakit? Hindi siya rated as confidential, top secret, restricted, and you also have to consider the data privacy law, RA 1075. Very definite ang data classification ng restriction sa sensitive personal information. Tandaan nyo yan, doble ang penalty kapag ka ang sensitive personal information ng citizen, ng customer, my friend, ay na-breach. Yan. Kailangan malinaw. Kaya importante ang data residency. Saan siya naka-reside? Sa data center ba ni Amazon, AWS sa Singapore? O kaya ang una mong itatanong, oy Amazon, nasaan ang mga data center mo sa Pilipinas? Siguraduhin mo na nandoon lahat ang aming system, wala sa labas. Eh paano mo malalaman IT director? Eh hindi mo alam kung paano evaluatein ang isang cloud service provider. Merong 5 indicator. Merong metrics na ginagamit. At hindi hinuhulaan yun. Hindi mo kailangan mag-research. Research, kahirap-hirap yan. Merong standard. Papakita ko sa inyo yun mamaya. And then after that, my friend, data residency, no? Sunod yung data ownership. Kaya yang si stay safe niyan, may problema yan sa data ownership. And then, meron itong, yan, effectivity, oh. Diyos ko. Oh. Ang tanong, may kopya ba kayo nito? Yan ang sabi ni Gregorio Hunasa. Mga kapatid, ang mga head of agency niyo ba nag-meeting na sila kung paano gagawin yan? Ang inyong IT director, kinuha na ba ang attention ang inyong procurement? At ang inyong head of the agency sa way kayong magmamigrate sa cloud using these two. O DICT, ILCDB, meron na ba kayong training program so that government agency and instrumentality will be ready? Pero si Rod, nakataas ang noo niya ngayon. Bakit? Ginawa mo na ngayong araw na ito, Rod. Rodrigo Macan Santos. Ginawa mo ngayong araw. Ano comment mo, Rod? Wala si Manong Rod ko. Alright? Required, no? Okay, so, May Diodoro from Pagadian City.
Hello po, sir.
Kamusta ka na? O ngayon, alam mo
Okay,
na,
sir.
Miss May. Dyan sa inyong probinsya, tuturuan niyo sila ng cloud computing. Bakit may nakalagay, voice please? Hindi niyo ako naririnig?
No, sir. Naririnig po namin kayo, sir. Loud and clear.
Pero may nag-chat kasi, voice please.
It's on her end lang siguro, sir. Sige lang, sir. Chat po namin siya, sir.
Okay, so merienda muna tayo. Break.
Sige po, sir. 15 minutes, sir.
Alright.
Alright.
Ano ba ang masarap na pagkain dyan sa Pagadian, May?
Marami man, sir.
Ano ang favorite ng lahat na merienda? Sabi
Turon. Gusto mo, sir, turon?
Turon. Alright, sige. Ayaw mo na. All right. Men, asan ka na?
Dito lang po ako, sir.
Okay, so let's start. And this time, let us have a good briefing on what is cloud computing. Okay? So, clear ba yung aking screen? So,
Yes, sir. Clear po, sir.
right. So, ang government cloud first policy, ang ibig sabihin niyan, malinaw dapat sa inyo yung digital transformation context at implementation requirement. So before you can truly speak about cloud first policy, you must have a very good context ng implementation. Then, you have to have a good framework sa security at data privacy protection. And then you must know exactly how would you know that the cloud service provider is compliant to whatever are the regulatory requirements of the Republic of the Philippines. So the question of understanding is, what are the foundational knowledge that underpins the valid, verifiable, acceptable, and actionable plan, design, acquisition, operation, and improvement of your agency's digital transformation with cloud computing approach. Then, you don't rely on what the supplier are saying or your consultant are telling you. You need to know what is the system of standards and rules to publicly assure the expected level of cybersecurity, information security, and data privacy in the cloud computing approach. Alam nyo, mayroong mga director commission para mapag-designate niya na okay na siya. Hindi ho. Ang accountability, you can designate the responsibility, but never the accountability. So you have to understand really what do you mean by digital governance in the context of cloud computing. Remember that the digital government is government designed and operated to take advantage of digital data. That is the very critical element in the digitalization of government. Na ang digital data nandiyan. Because the moment data are digitalized, then my friend, you can optimize, transform, and create better the government services. So we start with analog government. When we are still analog, close. Kayo lang ang mayabang sa inyong internal focus. You are the only one who knows what you are doing. And the citizen will just be obligated to do what you are doing. But when e-government happened, there is more transparency. This time, ito yung we call it computerization. So during computerization, you use ICT to enable your procedure. But now, we are now talking of digital government. In the Philippines, as I said yesterday, digital government is a planned digital transformation contained in the e-government master plan of 2022. All the initiative of DICT relative to digital government are based on that particular EGMP. And the authority to implement digital government is in the hands of RA 10844, the law that created DICT. So digital government, ito lang ibig sabihin yan. Electronic interaction. Please note, i-quote nyo si Sir John, if you follow the anti-red tape law and if you follow the EGMP, mandated ang electronic interaction between government to government, government to citizen, government to business, and government to employee. Mandated, boss. It's a mandate, it's an obligation of government agency to bring about electronic interaction of government to another government agency, to the government to the citizen, government to business, and government to government, in order to achieve mandated purpose and quality of service anywhere, anytime, and with anyone. Hindi na ho ngayong kwento yan. That is an obligation. And digital government, it satisfies the citizen. Today, you satisfy the citizen because of the quality process interaction with automation. That is why, kung ako tatanungin nyo, dapat i-complain yung mga head of the agency na hindi nagko-comply sa 605-207. Yung EO 605, hanggat hindi nyo kino-comply yan, binabastos nyo yung requirement for quality performance in government. Ganun lang ho kasimple yun. Kahit saan pa ho tayong forum magpunta. The moment an agency does not comply with EO 605, binabastos po ninyo yung requirement for quality performance in government. Using technology as a tool to ensure good governance and quality of management services. If you are not doing this, then my friend, you are undermining boss, the provision in RA 11032 for automation and electronic processing for no contact policy. Number 3, inclusivity, participation, and transparency. Number 4, simplifying the administrative processes. If you undermine the automation requirement and the no contact policy brought by electronic transaction as provided in RA 11032, boss, the head of agency is simply not following the law. Ganun lang ako kasimple. So, you know, na yung pangarap ni Secretary Hunasan at pangarap ng EGMT to have a digital government, it means 6 things, 6 items. It means there is a single portal. Tandaan nyo mga taga-DICT, that's the reason. You know there is digital government if there is a single portal. That's why you are attempting to have a unified data shared across the public sector. Alam ko mayroong project ang DICT sa HRIS. And then mayroong cross-government shared services. That is why kapipirma lang nila secretary doon sa data sharing requirement ito para sa COVID. Then there is a shared government infrastructure. That is why you are creating the national broadband. Improve sensor network and analytics. And then cybersecurity and privacy. That is why there is a national CERT in ROSES. And there is a national cybersecurity group. So all of this is part of a indicator whether a government has a digital government. And there is $1 billion of budget. Tingnan ninyo ang budget ng DICT. Billion relative sa formation ng digital government. And if you look at government agency, they are also budget in their ISSP to support the digital government. So dyan opinion ba yan? Hindi. That is a global reference in order for you to be given funds by World Bank. And the Philippines is observing that indicator. So this is how it looks. So all your service agreement with your customer and all the service portfolio that you are in, they are all related to systems that collect, use, retain, share. Underneath that are all your what, Sir John? Your access device, your sensor, your network. This is your cloud computing base. All right? Yan ang cloud computing base. And that is the loop. So if your agency is not yet designed to be in this platform, boss, your agency is violating the cloud-first policy of the Republic of the Philippines. And if you are not yet migrating all your system using the technologies that are associated to cloud computing, I think the head of the agency must be conscious that he is not complying to the cloud-first policy of the Republic of the Philippines. The ICT Department Circular 02 Series 2017 and the ICT Circular 10 Series 22. When you talk of cloud, use this as your reference because it gives you the common definition, the policy statement. Pag ang inyong subject matter expert sa cloud hindi nagsasalita based on this, ay, pasensya na sasabihin ko, may problema kayo. Because you really want to understand cloud, this particular circular has provided you with a common definition, policy statement, value to create, the cloud computing model, the data classification, kahit ano pa sabihin ng mga third-party expert dyan ng galing sa malalaking university. If they are not talking relative to the circular, you are a government agency, hindi tama. Whatever is your lecture on cloud security and privacy, if they do not comply to the rules and regulation and standard that is prescribed, mali. And then kahit na gaano kagaling yung mga service provider, but they do not have the cloud service certification, wala din yan. And there is a cooperative, collaborative relationship between the DICT and the government agency relative to the development roles in the cloud. So, your training on cloud first policy must be based on these circulars. So, ang digital transformation journey ng gobyerno, yan, yung leadership, you need to have a new capability. Your IT director, whoever he is and whatever it is, whatever his credential, he needs to have a new capability as the organization's performance is being changed by cloud computing. Infrastructure as a service, software as a service, platform as a service. You are no longer to set up an infrastructure that you normally do on your own site. It is there are going to be services. All right? And this is going to be your reference. Ngayon, tanong, how would you know, Sir John, that we know and we are trained right, na tama yung training namin sa cloud computing? Alam nyo, ang cloud computing, maaaring you can talk about it generic. Merong common standard. But when you talk of generic, talk of the ISO standard, please. Talk on the technical standard provided by ITU. Because these two organizations has provided the standard reference on cloud computing that all cloud service providers in the development of their services must comply. Amazon will comply, Azure complies, but the moment they set up their services, they use their own technology that is compliant to the standard. Kaya pag pinag-aralan yung cloud computing, napaka-importante, Professor, na kabisado mo ang standard references. Number two, you have an actual experience of the technology that are specific to the service provider offering the cloud services. So when you claim that you know cloud computing, do you know a cloud service provider? Ganito lang ang test ko. If this item you do not know, then my friend, you have no experience in the cloud. If you cannot tell me what is S3, AWS IM, EC2, RDS, BTC, CloudWatch, Cloud9, GitHub, Jenkins, Docker, Ansible, boss, and you are a teacher on cloud computing, bossing, you are not a credible source of authority. Meaning, meaning you can do this work. You can do the AWS SysOps, AWS Architect, or ASW. What is happening now to the IT department of the agency, they are reshifting their job roles related to their adapted cloud service provider. And this particular technology on cloud computing belongs to Amazon. So the moment you adopt Amazon, Amazon has its own technology associated to infrastructure, related to platform, related to software. So they have the view of network, they have the view of data system, they have view of where you develop program. And if you are in the procurement, you must know the metrics of qualifying. To qualify Amazon, you have to make sure you know availability zone. You have to understand their service portfolio. You have to understand their adoption, their integration, their market share, and billing. These are the indicators that will qualify Amazon, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, Huawei Cloud, Lazada, Alibaba Cloud to be used by your organization. So your IT organization today, all right, must be able to migrate their understanding of technology to the technology that are in the service provider. And if you adapt, yan, virtual network, virtual machine, okay, then you are using Azure Microsoft. So you have your CSR, and then, yan, that is the loop. So Amazon also has its own infrastructure. It has its own platform. It has its power. And then to qualify whether Microsoft Azure, all right, is good for you, then you understand again the availability, the service portfolio, the adoption, the integration, the market share, and the billing. The moment you adapt it, this become your technology. The moment you assure, the moment you adapt the computing approach of Microsoft Azure, then these are the kind of technology that you are going to work inside it. Sabi nila, isa dyan para procurement. Hindi generic yan ha. Itandaan mo, nung ginawa yung procurement law, wala pa namang cloud computing. Today, they have already devices different approach in order to override some regulatory requisite ng procurement law na obsolete, that does not apply to the current scenario of marketing, and procuring of technology related to cloud. Then ang next, ito. Yan. Ito naman, ganito ang kanyang mga technology. Compute engine, cloud console, cloud DNS, cloud big table, cloud IoT. And then, hinahanap sa iyo pagiging architect, engineer. Ito ang Google Cloud. So si Google Cloud, meron siyang infrastructure, meron siyang management, may networking, may storage, and then meron mga big data. Kaya yung mga nagdadaldal ng mga big data, machine learning, the only way to test that, kung marunong sila, kung sila ba ay may system na tumatakbo kay Google Cloud. Kasi si Google Cloud, by default, meron na siya kaagad na system on big data at machine learning. Kaya marami na mga korporasyon that have big data and machine learning, they go to Google Cloud. And these are all the technologies. So what I'm saying now, my friend, to you is, you are an expert in cloud computing if you know the standards. And number two, if you know the technologies that are being used by the service provider in the provision of the infrastructure, in the provision of the platform, in the provision of the software, in the cloud. Yan lang ho. Kung hindi ganyan ang paliwanag sa iyo ng matalino at magaling na resource person on the cloud computing sa iyo, may mali. Kasi that is what is valid, verifiable, acceptable, and actionable understanding of cloud computing. And then, kung kayo ay gumagamit ng open source tool, nasa cloud na rin po yan, ang mga open source tool. Hindi mo na kailangan magkaroon ng server dyan sa agency mo para mag-set up. Yan. So may mga DevOps, management, application, mga framework, databases, infrastructure na readily available na in the cloud. Nandun na mismo. Ano itsura niya, Sir John? Alright? Malinaw po tayo. Malinaw po ha. Kaya pag nagpa-training kayo, Rod, ng cloud, wag suntok hangin. You get someone who is really a practitioner sa cloud computing. Kasi sayang yung pera, sayang oras ng mga tao kung sa dulo, hindi sila makakapag-implement. Tama ba? Kung hindi kayo makakapag-implement yung cloud computing, sayang. Sayang. Siguro magtataka kayo, bakit ganito ako confident? Kasi po, there was a time na ang nangyari sa akin, merong isang product distributor ng cloud services, ang gusto niyang kunin yung isa kong grupo na mag-distribute ng kalang sa cloud services. In the process, so I get introduced to all these technologies related to the cloud. Related to the cloud. The only way ka lang na matututo rito, alam niyo, actual. Hindi basa-basa ng libro. Kasama na yun, pero kailangan talaga may actual kang karanasan. Na meet mo talaga yung magpo-provide ng services. Kaya when you are trained for cloud computing, diretsahan na, boss, diretso. Doon sa talagang service provider. The moment na walang bola-bola yan. The moment na nag-adapt talaga kayo ng cloud computing, for example, si GovCloud, assure yan eh. Yung una nag-set up na grupo niya, si Vival, di ba? Oh. Pag pinuntahan mo doon yung kay Globe, nandun pa sa CP Garcia, yung mga server ng GovCloud. Pero pag tiningnan mo, ano ba nasa loob niyan? Ganito lang itsura no. Yan. Pag tiningnan mo yan, ito laman nun. Yan, no? Yan. Tingnan nyo yung GovCloud, may application yan as a service. Merong platform yan as a service. May infrastructure yan. Ano ba yung may infrastructure, sir, dyan? Network. Yung mga server mo, yung mga computing capacity, number ng hard disk. Hindi mo na kailangan yan. Ina-arkila na lang ngayon yan. Platform. O di yung mga runtime, yung mga database, yung mga application system para umandar yung mga program mo. Eh ano naman yung mga application? O yan 365. Hindi mo na ngayon kailangan install yan sa mga ano mo. Tama ba? Ang storage niyan, pwedeng diretso na sa web. Pwede na on web mo, pwede ka na write sa web. Maggawa ka na ng mga trabaho mo. Ito, yung Zoom. Application yan. Merong mga e-store, ERP, mga HRS. Buo na. Pupunta ka lang sa cloud. Yun naman mga tao mo, da-download lang nila sa laptop nila, sa phone nila, sa tablet nila. Kaya ka lang may server sa opisina mo para sa internet connectivity. Yun lang kailangan mo eh. Kaya pag pumunta ka sa mga agency, ang makikita mo lang na network niyan, ang minamanage na lang dyan, yung network para magkaroon ng connection sa internet at yung mga proxy server ng connectivity at pagmamanage. Pero yung others, wala na. Nandun na sa mga remote sa tinatawag na mga remote site ng yung mga service provider. Bakit? Anong tsura niya, sir, dyan? Ganito yon. Kausap mo si Amazon. Okay, hindi na ako magsiset up ng data center ko. Ikaw na magbibigay sa akin ng mga virtualization ko, server ko, mga hard disk ko, yung mga network ko, mga DNS, lahat yan. Sa akin lang, ako yung agency ko, meron kaming gawang application. Patatakbuhin lang namin dyan. Meron kaming data, patatakbuhin din namin dyan. May runtime kami, dyan. Pero yung lahat ng infrastructure that you have, currently have, physically, we are just merely renting that facility doon sa service provider. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng infrastructure. Kaya nga, ang network administration ngayon, you don't administer any more device. You are now administering the code. Bakit? Wala ka ng server wala kang network server eh. Ang network server mo nandoon kay Amazon, kaya kay Azure, kaya na kay Google Cloud. Pero minamanage mo yung network using the code. Ang isa naman, platform. Okay. Amazon, iyo pa rin lahat ang physical. Okay? Pero sa'yo yung aking mga Java, sa'yo yung aking PHP, lahat ang ginagamit ko para mag-develop ng mga system, software, sa'yo na rin yan. Ang trabaho ko lang, ako magde-develop, ima-manage ko yung application, ima-manage ko ang data. Pero ikaw mag-i-install ng mga platform, pati ang facility. Magli-link lang ang lahat ng developer ko doon sa data center, sa cloud. Ganun lang. Ito ang malupit ngayon. Sasabihan mo yung si cloud service, cyber cloud provider, yun na lahat ang physical, sa'yo rin lahat ang software, sa'yo rin pati solution. Ang trabaho ko lang, pakukonektahin ko lang ang tao ko at customer ko sa kanilang mobile apps sa desktop nila. Hindi, no? Wala na. So, babayaran ko na lang sa'yo lahat ng application. Kaya ngayon, yung mga korporasyon na malalaki, yan sila Microsoft, Oracle, hindi na nag-maintain ng ano yan, ng sarili lang system sa accounting, sa ERP, sa CRM. Lahat yan nasa sales, marami yan nasa Salesforce na. Salesforce is a SaaS. Relative saan? Sa lahat ng klase ng back-end operation, financial, HRIS. Si Alibaba is also a SaaS. If you want to have an end-to-end online store or online business, you don't need to set up your hardware, software, no more. You just buy a space in the cloud services of Alibaba or Amazon and then run your business. You pay attention now sa marketing at pag-create ng market. So yan po. So dyan ang gobyerno. Ay oo, marami naman. Marami mga system na sa HRIS, taxation. Ang kulit lang kasi ng mga Pilipino eh. Gusto niyang gumawa ng kaiiba siya eh. Na sa dulo naman, nangungopia din naman ng standard. Eh bakit hindi ka? Katulad lang sa learning management system. Nitong nagkaroon ng COVID, nagpupumilit yung isang ahensya gumawa ng Moodle. Nagpupumilit siya. Kasi gusto niyang insist yung gusto niya. Sa dulo naman, hindi naman niya kaya. Ba't hindi na lang siya nag-adapt nung gawa na? Nandiyan si Schoology. Nandiyan naman si Google Classroom. Nandiyan si Canvas. And then ang gawin mo na lang, mag-set up ka ng kung ano isi-set up na requirement. Tama ba? Kaysa maggastos ka pa nakaka-set up ng Moodle system mo. That is to me, that's one of the ridiculous way of setting up. The world is no longer doing that. The world simply adapt as SaaS, software as a service. They do not waste time creating. They make use already of what is available as a service. I still remember one agency was a problem related sa pagbibigay ng pagmamanage ng kanilang mga beneficiary. So one day, sabi nila, I think we are having problem because we have a very inefficient accounting system and a very inefficient cashiering system. So what they did, they just adopted the ERP of SAP. So they made the behavior of the ERP of SAP to comply with the COA rules and the COA guidance na related sa budget and everything, and then recustomize. So they don't insist anymore of creating their own financial FMIS. They just adapt and they are in the cloud. So that agency does not need any more server, everything. Immediate. Then they use and train their people because of SaaS. SaaS is now a very powerful approach to have a quick, immediate deployment of your digitalization product. Ang mga bangko, hindi na nag-invento yung mga bangko. Diyos me naman. Akala mo lang, iba-iba yung kanila yan. Totoo niyan, pare-pareho lang pinagayahan yan. And then you will even be noticing that they seem to follow the same protocol. Of course, because the original developer has the copyright and the IP right. And some of those producer or developer company, they pay for the intellect, for the patent, or for the IP. But they try to recustomize it based on requirement ng kanilang customer. That is cloud computing. Quick, easy, and fixed. And then you don't need anymore to be worried about security. Why is that, John? Because by default, they follow standard. You know, If you are an expert on cloud computing, you must know this ISO standard. The International Organization of Standardization has provided cloud computing developer and service provider with a standard that will make them interoperate, that will make them compliant. So if you are an expert on cloud computing, memorize mo ISO 1788. The way you explain cloud computing, the right way to explain it is here. How do you create the reference architecture? Here. All right? How do you understand the cloud services, devices, data flow, data category, data use? ISO 19944. How do you understand interoperability and portability? Dalda, kamahal-mahal ng mga consultant na kunuha pa dyan. Paano hindi nila pinag-aaralan yung ISO standard 19841? Nandun lahat ang guidance. How do you handle data sa cloud services? 22624. Yung consultant mo, dyan din mangungopia yan. The service provider, that is also where they are going to get their normative reference to tell that they are doing the right thing right. Security ng mga supplier. How would you know that your supplier is security compliant? 27036. Or you are asked to create your cloud computing policy. How do you create it? There is a standard. Kamahal-mahal pa ng consultant ng talang 22678. Nandun na lahat. Doon din mangungopia yan. How do you create service level agreement? ISO 9086. Just me, kaibigan, this is what is used by all the international organizations in the world as a reference that will tell them that they are doing the right thing to do. And they are doing the right thing right. Kung ever there are changes, that is just improvement from their experience. But the baseline of knowledge, they are basing it on the international standard. How would you know there is security? 27017. How would you know there is privacy in your cloud? 27018. This one is required by NPC. This is required by NPC to be used by the DPO to assure that the cloud services of personal information is privacy compliant. Ang DICT, National NTC, they observe the International Telecommunication Union standard. Lahat ng mga telco, whatever you do relative to cloud, normally, you follow the ITU standard. O dito na naman uli, o yan ang code. Kaya pag-aralan mo na lang, gusto mo malaman ng mga bokabularyo. Eto. How would you want to know the high-level requirement? Yan. Do you want to understand the reference architecture? Yan. Do you want to know the functional requirement of infrastructure as a service? Oh, that's the code. Network as a service. How do you secure cloud computing? Ayan. Sabi ng NPC, kailangan ang security control mo based on ISO 2702. How do you do that in the cloud? Yan. There is a reference code. Yung IT director mo, yung IT technical team mo dyan, ang data protection mo at cybersecurity officer mo, dapat master nila yung standard. Hindi nila master yung nilecture ng third-party resource person, ang supplier. How would you know na tama yung supplier mo? You must speak on the same ground of what is valid, verifiable, acceptable, and actionable. Go to the standards. Isa pa, sa very favorite, the National Institute of Standard and Technology. How do you define cloud computing? SP 800. Yung mga guidance sa mga regulation, mga batas, dyan lang din magkinopya yan. How do you evaluate cloud computing services? SP 500. How do you know the cloud computing standard? SP 200. How would you know there is privacy and security in the cloud? SP 800. Ito mga ito, hindi ito ginawa para ipakita nila na magaling sila. All of these standards were meant to guide mismo yung service provider, the people who are developing the technology, and the people who are making decisions on using this technology. So they have a common reference that will tell them what is valid, verifiable, acceptable, and, my friend, actionable understanding and decision with regards to cloud computing. And then EU, the European, marami nagtatanong, Sir John, secure ba yan? Bago mo ko tanongin yan, ang ibabalik ko sa iyo yung tanong, sabi mo nga sa akin, paano magiging secure ang cloud? Kasi kung magtanong ka, parang may alam ka. So tanong ko sa iyo, paano natin mas malalaman na secure? So, meron nung pinagkokopyahan ng mundo. Ang tawag dito is the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity. Eh bakit? Sila nauna eh. Minsan nga may nagtanong pa sa akin, Sir John, bakit pa tayo sumusunod sa EU? Eh tanong ko sa iyo, saan ka susunod? Sa Pilipino. Ha? Sa Pilipino. Eh yung may PhD mo, nangopya din yan eh. Doon sa mga international study, ni-structure niya lang sa thesis niya relative doon sa particular problem statement. Pero yung pinaka-baseline ng knowledge at concept yan, nanggaling pa rin sa original. Yung nag-create niyan at nag-create ng problema niyan. Kaya ang look-up ng buong mundo, EU. Baka magulat ka pa ng lahat ng technology ginagamit mo sa internet nanggaling sa mga mahihirap na bansa sa Eastern Europe, na matapos nilang humiwalay sa Russia, the only way for them na maging mayamang bansa is to go for what? Digital. And then lahat ng kanilang mga ginawang digital solution, inadapt ng mga negosyante. Yan lang naman yan eh. Pag siniyasat na yung mga solution ni Microsoft, solution ni Google, magugulat kayo dyan, puro Russian ni malat ang mga taong gumagawa. And then the incubation party, nang galing na sa Eastern Europe, Belarus, Estonia, Lithuania. Sa dyan, Korea, baka biruin mo ko. Yung Koreano at yung Inchik, nag-aral din sila doon sa mga laboratory na yon. Ang kabutihan, they bring it to their country. At ang pinakamatbigat, the training and the manufacturing, instead of doing it in Europe or in the US, they brought it to China. That is the reason why China get so strong in technology, because they became the manufacturing of those invented, taught, research in those countries. Yun lang. And then, ang mga may kapitalista, they start to bring their money to China to support all of those things. Marunong ang China. Ininchik nila yung technology. And now, yung pinasip si Huawei, original. Hello? Asip si Samsung, original. Hello? So, balik ka sa pinanggalingan. So, sa cybersecurity, one of the look-up reference is the EU ICT. So, to understand the cloud computing risk benefit, may very recent guidance, 2019 1-9. Security Framework for Government Cloud, 2015 2-26. Para sa mga small, medium enterprise, the Cloud Security Guide is 2015. Alright? Ngayon, how would you know, sir, na yung Amazon, si Azure, merong compliance? Compliance means they adhere to the rule, policy, standard, and specification or law. Paano nyo malalaman? Yan ang advantage ng cloud. Bakit, Sir John? Kasi meron na silang program. Alam nila kung saan sila magpo-comply. Ikaw, IT director, dyan sa agency, alam mo ba kung saan ka magpo-comply? Pero itong mga ito, na-establish na nila kung saan ka magpo-comply. I'll give you an example. So, si Amazon. So, let's say, in-adapt niyo si Amazon. In-adapt niyo si Amazon. Siya service provider niyo. Hoy, Amazon! Siguraduhin mo, Amazon, siguraduhin mo, na compliant ka. May security compliance ka. Pwede mo ba sabihin niya sa IT division ng agency mo? Hoy, IT division, ipureba mo nga sa akin na compliant tayo sa security at cybersecurity. Pero kung kayo ay nasa cloud, Yan. Hindi pwedeng hindi. Bakit? Walang negosyo yan sila kung hindi sila compliant. Kaya pag tinanong mo, secure ba sir ang cloud? Sabihin, hindi mo alam ang cloud. Hindi mo pa naintindihan. Wala ka pang karanasan. Kasi kung meron, ayan. Ito si Amazon. Pag sinabi ni Rod, Sir Jan, secure ba yung Amazon? Tingnan mo yung kanyang compliance program. Ayan. Yan. Kung gusto niyong pag-aralan, ano ba yung mga compliance program, Sir Jan? Ano ba yung mga standard sa security? Standard sa privacy? Pumunta ka lang kay Amazon, may listahan. Sabihin sino Amazon, ano sir ang gusto mo? Mamili ka. Meron kaming ISO 901, 2701, 2717, 27018. Kung meron kang payment gateway sir dyan, meron kaming PCI DSS level 1, SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3. Tanungin niyo IT director niyo kung naiintindihan niyo to. At tanungin niyo kung mga server ninyo dyan sa inyong agency compliant dito sa mga standard na ito. Kung nag-ooperate ka sa Amerika at you do business sa mga korporasyon na Amerika ang pinanggalingan, lalo na kung ospital yan, IPAA. So ang buong data storage system ni Amazon, compliant sa IPAA. Kung financial, PISMA. Yan ang kagandahan. Kaya pagka hindi nang bobola, dahil alam niya kung ano pinag-uusapan. Amazon, pakita mo nga sa akin. And then, pagkatapos niyan, sasabihin sa ni Amazon, o ano sir, bibili ka ba ng mga tools para maging compliant ka dito? Kasi, binibenta niya rin ang security as a service. Ang galing, ano? So, imbis na mag-set up ka, bilhin mo na lang sa kanya, rentahan mo, at ilagay mo doon sa virtualization server mo na nando doon ang kumpanya mo. Ang galing, ano? Di ba? So, yan. Yan ang value, mga kapatid, pag kayo ay pumunta sa cloud computing. Babayaran nyo lang arkila. Then mabubuo nyo na ang isang. Kaya maraming kumpanya ngayon, digital sila, pero wala silang server. Matatawa pa kayo, wala silang IT operations group. Outsource, third party rin nagmamanage, ang tawag managed services. Hindi sila nag-maintain ng mga technical. Third party. Ang mini-maintain lang nila, abogado para sa mga kontrata. At number 2, isang Chief Technology Officer at isang Chief Information Security Officer na nakakaintindi ng leadership and management requirement paano i-manage ang mga information system in the cloud at paano minamanage ang ang security sa cloud. Pero yung magmamanage na programmer, managed service third party. Kaya nga, ang future outsourcing. Kaya ang future ng mga nagtatrabaho sa IT, hindi sila naghahanap ng tinatawag na permanent. Yung mga tao naghahanap ng position at permanent na hanggang doon sila magre-retire, wala po ngayon. Hindi na po ngayon uso yan sa konsepto ng digital corporation. Darating ang panahon na ultimo ang help desk, walang tao, robot. Di ba ang PLDT, meron silang account sa Facebook, magre-reklamo ka, sasagutin ka, kala mo kausap mo ang loko, yung pala, hindi. Sabi ni Sir, nosebleed ang subscription fee. Nosebleed kasi Sir, hindi mo naintindihan. Pero kung basahin mo yung standard Sir, standard yun Sir, maiintindihan mo siya. Ang problema kasi sa ating komisa, tumitingin tayo ng dokumento, bulag. Diba? Normal lang mo yun. Pero hanapin mo yung standard para mabasa mo yung dokumento. Yan yung standard. Marami ako. Sir, yan ang hirap intindihin ng mga kontrata. Kasi nga, sir, tinignan mo na yung kontrata eh. Di no-split nga. Dahil hindi mo alam yung English niyan eh. Ba't hindi po muna pag-aralan yung dictionary niya? Yun yung value ng standard, sir. Doon kayo muna. Yung mga reklamo ng karamihan na IT director related sa cloud computing, ang bottom line nun, tanga. Yun lang mo yun. Hindi hindi niya alam yung standard. Kahit pa may cost calculator yan, kung hindi mo naiintindihan ang meaning ng paano ginagawa ng cost calculator yan, relative sa isang standard set, hindi mo pa rin yan maintindihan. Nakakaintindi lang yun yung ahente ni Amazon na kausap mo. Kaya pag-aralan nyo yung, kaya yan ang trabaho dapat ng DICT, turuan kayo kung paano intindihin yung cost calculator, mga everything. Meron pong standard yun. Hindi paggawa ng service. Yun po ang point ko. Pero kung ang training nyo, kukunin nyo lang doon sa sinabi ng, ay, wala, laglag yan. Nosebleed po talaga kayo. So, study the standard. Then, you will now be able to understand the cost calculator. Dahil unang-una, sir, minsan, tumitingin kayo sa isang bagay na wala naman talaga kayong karanasan. Yung mga sinasabing ko, kwentahin doon, hindi naman yung nakitang tangible eh. Hindi nyo naman nahawakan, nakita nyo lang. Pero ano ba talaga siya? That's another story. Maliwanag po, kaya ang competency sa cloud computing, ang unang step para maintindihan nyo yan, sir. Standard. Pag-aralan nyo yung standard. Yung mga concept at terminology at mga vocabulary. Para pag nakikipag-usap kayo sa mga tindero, nakikipag-usap kayo sa mga tao ng service provider at may pinagagawa sa inyo, naiintindihan nyo. Yun ang ibig sabihin. Alright? At binigyan ko kayo ng mga kopya. Boss, binigyan ko kayo ng kopya. Tingnan nyo dyan sa link ng aking Google Drive. Dahil ang paniniwala ko, wala akong kwentang teacher kung sa dulo, hindi nyo alam gawin yung sinasabi ko. So nandiyan po, binigyan ko kayo ng resource. Paano gumawa ng service level agreement, paano nyo maiintindihan ang mga terminology, yung concept, yung drawing, yung framework. Hindi mo alam yan eh. Kahit na may PhD ka pa sa computer science, wala yan. Kaya nga huwag ka magtuturo ng cloud computing na never ka nakapag-set up ng virtualization server. Diyos me naman. Di ba, sir? Paano ka magtuturo hindi ka nga nakaset up ng virtual server? Paano ka magtuturo hindi ka nga nakapag-set up ng network sa loob ng cloud? Nabasa mo. Pero, guro kayo magtataka, ba't ka ganyan, sir, dyan? Eh, totoo lang po kasi ako eh. Hindi ako nang bobola ng customer. Kaya doon sa company where I became the general manager, ginagalang po ako. When they take my word with trust. At marami din yung galit sa akin sapagkat nabubulgar po yung hindi na nambobola lang sila. Pero yan ang accountability. Okay, mga sirs and ma'am? So, ngayong araw, na-achieve ni Rod Macan Santos ng MC1 ang requirement ng DICT Circular 010. Okay ba? Tama, Rod? Na dapat yung i-train ang mga taong gobyerno sa cloud computing at i-train niyo sa tama. Train niyo dun sa regulation, sa tamang standard at tamang model. Kung hindi, ayan na naman ang Pilipinas. Maglo-launch, mag-i-inaugurate. Sunod na araw, tahimik na siya. Dahil hindi na niya alam kung anong susunod. Pero bongga sa simula. Alright? So, mga kapatid, we need to be responsible. Tandaan nyo, ang buhay, minuminuto lang. Dahil minuminuto yan, let us do it right. Tama kasi, walang sweet talk, hard talk. Kasi the hard talk make things happen. And then, you become happy because you have done what is needed. Alright? Ako hindi po. Power does not come with great responsibility. Power requires you to know. Kasi yung responsibility, mga kapatid, the moment alam mo, kahit gaano kalaki yan, okay lang. Pero power comes with big requirement of knowledge. Yung responsibility, madali. Pero kung ang power, umupo, pero wala naman talaga siyang alam na lawak na alam, pabigat yung responsibility. Ako, I'm coming from experience. I have observed a lot of power in government and worked with them for some time. When they leave, it is lonely. Malungkot po. Malungkot. Kaya every time na napapanood ko si Presidente Digo, I can only pray for him to be happy. Mabigat ko ang dala niya. Dahil pagdating ng 2022, may iba lahat niya. Marami po akong, alam niyo kung kayo nakaranas ng isang very proud na seso, suddenly isang araw may ombudsman case. Nas ko, kung makita niyo lang kung paano kahirap yung tao na yun to pretend every day that he is all right. But in reality, you can really feel the nerve and the... Naku, marami akong ganyang karanasan. I even have one project one time. I was helping them para hindi magkaroon ng kaso. It so happened na estudyante ko yung executive director. And then he was asking me, Sir John, can you help me to make this right, itong aming IT project? So I helped him. But then, nagpalit ng presidente. And then, nung nagpalit ng presidente, may bias yung secretary doon sa mga tao doon sa agency. May bias. Ano pa naman? Tinanggal siya. Agad. Binigyan siya ng travel order. Pinromote siya. Pero dinala siya sa Sibugay. Diyos ko. Dahil, ganun lang kasimple. Pero for the last 6 years na nasa pwesto, sikat-sikat. Galing. So, ganyan po. Pero kung yun, solid ang kanyang knowledge item, hindi siya magagawa. Pero at the time, sinabihan ko siya, Sir, ganyan mo talaga ang buhay. Tanggapin mo na and be happy sa Sibugay. So, they did. Then, naging happy siya. Yung pumalit sa kanya, yun ang maraming kaso ngayon. Ganun lang yun, sir. Alright? So, mga kapatid, I hope you appreciate what we did today. And as I told you, your resource, ako po ay hindi academician. Fact to fact lang po ako kung ano yung naranasan at nakita with regards to this particular item. We talk directly of what it is. No sweet talking, sir. If you observe the law, observe the law. You follow the standard, follow the standard. And then live around with it. If it is hard, it means it's not for you. So look for somebody who can properly explain it to you. But make sure that that person you're dealing with, that you call consultant, also understand his standard. Kasi kung hindi po, naglulukuhan na kayong dalawa. Alright? So May, I'm done. Salamat ng marami.
Thank you po, sir. Let's proceed po, sir, sa ating question and answer portion. May dalawang questions po kami for you, sir.
Sige. Sige, May.
Na-flash po sa screen, sir, ni Sir Raj. Mahaba, sir.
Ang hirap ng tanong. Good afternoon. Cloud provider data sovereignty requirement. Would you agree that data science house at a more weather and mga pogi, hindi nyo na kailangan sabihin sa kanila yan. By default, alam nila yan. Meron sila na kaagad na disaster management plan. Meron niyang continuity. Kaya titingnan mo kaagad sila, patingin nga ng lahat ng iyong availability zone. Ang una niyong itatanong sa cloud service, availability zone. Ibig sabihin, saan nakalocate ang mga data center? Boss, hindi pupunta sa mga lugar na sinasabi niyong ganyan. Dahil pag sinabi mo yan, edi wala ng data center sa Japan. Kahit po yung dinadaanan ng bagyo, dinadaanan ng lindol yan, maglalagay pa rin po sila dyan. Dahil to, sapagkat kailangan minamanage nila ang risk. Kaya kagandahan ng mga cloud. Maniwala ba kayo na meron akong alam na provider nasa lugar ng giyera ang kanilang mga services? Oo. Nasa isang bansa na yung bansang yun puno-puno ng giyera. Bakit kailangan nila? Kailangan ng US government ang data center Nakuha niyo po ako? So, hindi o problema yung mga calamity na yan. Hindi nyo sila kailangan turuan yan. Perfect na po nila yan. Naiintindihan po nila. Dahil isa sa pinakamalaking user ng cloud, ng GovCloud, ay mga gobyerno ng Amerika, gobyerno ng Europe, lahat yan. Okay po ba? So, ang tanong, yung bang inyong procurement officer, naiintindihan ba kung paano mag-evaluate? Mag-evaluate. Yung IT director nyo, alam ba niyang paano i-snoop na yung kanyang mga server ay nandito sa Pilipinas? Siguro magtataka kayo, bakit ako very confident? Kasi there was a time po, nasama ako sa isang grupo na nagtatayo ng mga data center sa Indonesia para sa cloud. Kaya, kabisado ko po yun. Ang trabaho ko po kasi, project management consultant ako . Ang trabaho ko, sinisigurado ko lang na yung trabaho compliant sa isang standard ng pagmamanage. Kaya po, maalam ako. Naintindihan ko kasi alam ko yung problem. Kaya yung mga tanong ninyo, whether na-solve na ho yan. Maniwala ho ba kayo, meron pang cloud, merong isang cloud service provider. Ang mga data storage niya nasa ilalim ng dagat. Oo, nasa ilalim ng dagat. Dahil doon sa cooling requirement. Nagkaroon ako ng isang project na isa sa critical sa data center, cooling. Cooling, para mapalamig mo yung... So nilagay nila sila ng dagat. Hindi ito kwento. Actual kong nakita yan. Maniwala ba kayo, merong isang lugar walang kuryente. Nilagyan nila ng kuryente. Dahil yung lugar na yon kailangan ng military, ng US military, ng base. So they have to create the cloud data center sa lugar na yun. Kaya nga nauso yung mga solar, maraming technology ang power. So yan po yun. Kaya hindi na ako pinoproblema ngayon yung lugar na may hurricane, lindol, bagyo. Okay na? Next, boss.
Next question, please.
Alam nyo, sabi dun sa policy ng DICT sa First Cloud, pwede kayong mag-set up. Ganito po yun Pwede po kayong gumawa ng private cloud. Yan na naman. Kaya, okay? So, ang private cloud, ibig sabihin, sarili ho ninyo yung facility. And then yung private cloud na yun, maaari nakakonect sa isang public cloud. Nakuha niyo po yun. Yung private cloud po ninyo, nandoon yung backup nyo. Nandoon yung business continuity. Pero yung nakaharap doon sa mga kliyente nyo at sa lahat ng empleyado nyo sa pagtatrabaho, nandoon sa public cloud. Yun po ibig sabihin. So, ang bagong terminology ngayon, meron kayong private cloud na inyo na maaaring located sa site ninyo. Pero ang laman nun, yung technology nyo, technology ng cloud computing. Nagkakaintindihan po. Kailangan lumayo ko na kayo sa konsepto ng mga server ng mga panahon ng year 2000 hanggang year 2005. Kasi ang konseptong yan, nabago na lingwahe. So what you have now, yung on-site mo can be a private cloud na nakalocate mismo sa kung saan ka nandoon. At it serve as your backup. Sarili mo. O maaari din po, na kay Amazon ka, pero ang backup mo, yung buo mong system, meron kang isang particular na private cloud na nandoon naman sa server ni Microsoft. Ngayon, ang challenge dyan, paano mag-uusap yung dalawang yan? Meron din pong standard na yung dalawang klase ng cloud service provider, they must be able to interoperate. Diyan, ang napakahirap dyan, saan ang final residence at ownership ng data. Kasi may data rito, may data rin eh. Yan. Pag nagkaroon ng legal problem, such this privacy, whatever, dyan mo lang yan mararamdaman. Malinaw ba? So, sa ngayon sa cloud computing approach, yung sinasabi niyong backup physical na nasa iyo, pwede mo hong gawin yan. Kaya ho ngayon meron ng mga bago, di ba? Hindi ninyo kailangan ng internet para i-connect ang facility niyo. Meron na ngayong mga tinatawag na edge computing technology. Na yung mga data centers na yan, within a particular business jurisdiction, they can immediately be integrated. Hindi. Alam mo yung DepEd, hindi pwede. Batas ho yun eh. Unless masabi ni DepEd na mas magaling pa siya. Nandun ho sa ano eh. Alam nyo, ang DepEd, hanggat inaambisyon niya na siya ang magiging provider, palagi siyang may problema sa availability. Kilala ko ang DepEd eh. Kahit ipagtanong niyo ako dyan sa mga IT group na mga matatanda na dyan, kilala nila ako. Problema ng DepEd, nagpupumilit siyang magaling, hindi naman siya magaling. He's trying to build something na hindi naman niya mabubuo. Haba na. Nasa DepEd ako tumutulong since 2004. Hanggang ngayon, yung pa rin ang problema nila. Sipin mo, nag-set up ng LMS, Moodle. O, ano ang quality of service? Isamantalang kung inadapt na lang nila si Google Classroom, hindi natapos na. Diba? Ang problema kasi, hindi ganoon ang budgeting eh. Yung system, inadapt na lang niya si Schoology, inayos na lang niya doon, gumawa siya ng kanyang sariling DepEd, pero ang back-end platform, si Google Classroom, o kaya yung LMS ni Microsoft. Eh di, para bang ganito, gagawa ka pa ba DepEd ng email system mo? Nung araw, ina-ambition pa nila yung isang IT group dyan. May sariling email server dapat yung DepEd. Gagawin pa yung Bonifacio building na yung pinaka-data center. Tala nag-o-offer na si Google, nag-o-offer na si Microsoft, kami na bahala sa microserver mo, sir. I-count mo na lang. O there was a time, ang government, gumawa ng GovMail, gumawa ng Simbra, gumawa ng email server. Ito po, pahirapan pa sarili mo. Eh yan ho, andyan ang Google ho. Yan ang ibig sabihin, sir, ng cloud computing. Ang tawag yan, sir, software as a service. Huwag ka na mag-set up. Kaya nga yung ngayon, tuturuan mo ng e-commerce. E-commerce. Magsiset up siya ng website niya, blah, blah, blah. Hindi na uso yan, boss. Diyos ko. Pumunta ka sa website ni WordPress. Bumili ka ng domain. Bibigyan ka na niya ng content website. Punuin mo na lang. Gagawa ka pa ng web server mo. Wala na yun. Tapos na yung panahon na yun. Kaya yung DepEd, hanggang ang utak niya na doon pa rin sa panahon ng computerization era. Wala. Hindi mapapanuto ko yun. Kahit maglagay pa siya ng kanyang network, public education network, nagagasto ng 400 million. Pinabantayan ko yan eh. Kung ano mangyayari. Dahil hindi ho ganun yung approach na yun. Yung free wifi nga lang eh. Kung tutusin mo, kung binigyan na lamang ng gobyerno si Globe at si PLDT, hoy, lagyan nyo to ng mga ano ha, ng koneksyon ito lahat na ito, ha? Ito, babayaran namin sa iyo. Ha? Kaya naman lalagyan yan eh. Di ba? Sa airport yan, nagpupubad sila libre. Ismi naman, sa ibang bansa, ganun naman ang ginagawa eh. Kinalimuin yung gobyerno na nagsiset up. Yung marunong. Then, binibigyan na lang nila ng pondo. Ganyan ang Korea. Bakit ganun siya dyan? Kasi naman yung IT company provider, ang may-ari gobyerno eh. Yun. Kaya huwag niyo i-compare sarili niyo sa Singapore, sa Korea. Bakit? Ang mga IT firm doon, may-ari gobyerno. Japan, ganun din. Tayo, meron tayong batas, diniregulate natin. Dati, atin, hawak natin ang network. Kaya nga meron ano to? Telop, ang gobyerno. Ano ba namang pinatay yun at ginawang private lahat? O di lang. Ngayon, binabalik niya. Pero very heavy. Kalaban niya, napakadali yung free wifi. Napakahirap yan. Kaya hanga ako dito sa MC1 eh. Dawis sila at saka MC2 and 3. Paano na tinatrabaho yan eh. Napakabigat niya. Napakabigat. Pinakamabigat pa dyan, yung download ng pondo. Pondo. Ngayong taon, masaya ka. May pondo eh. Ha? Paano ko next year? Mag-iba ang direksyon nung nakaupo. Maiba ang model. Maraming model eh. Ang free wifi, maraming model. Sabi na, Sir John, may batas naman eh. Diyos me naman, isa, dalawang congressman lang yan, isang senador, bukas palit na yan. So, kailangan talaga mga kapatid, you really know your reference time. Ba't mo pinatay, May?
Sir?
Ayaw tanong?
Last question na po yun, sir.
Ganun ba? So, ano na gagawin natin, May? Inaantay ko talaga yung food grab eh.
Ako din, sir. Nag-aantay rin ako, sir.
Baka mauna pa ako. Ano ba orderin mo? McDonald's? Biro lang. Alright. So, marami pong salamat sa inyong lahat. At bukas, bukas madali na po yung atin. Mas ma-integrate na natin na. So, I hope naintindihan na po ninyo ang tamang the right thing, di pala tama, the right thing to do and how to do the right thing right. Ang rule lang, simple. Understand the rule, understand the standard, at dapat na-experience mo ang technology. Tama ba, May? Kasi kung hindi mo yan magagawa. Alright! Marami pong salamat.
Thank you so much, Sir John. As always, super informative, enlightening, at full of energy ang sessions nyo. Sabi pa nga ni Ma'am Regina Regidor, Sir, you are a jewel to us. Ayan. So, sir, see you tomorrow po. Last session na po natin for this webinar series. So, it's raffle time. Meron pa tayong 467 participants in Zoom. Ready na ba kayo sa ating raffle draw? So again, mechanic po ng raffle natin ay dapat nandito po kayo sa Zoom. Ayaw po namin nang iiwan. Spin the wheel, please. Congratulations, Mr. Brian Santa Teresa. Nandito ba si Sir Brian? Can you raise your hand, sir? Ayan, nandito si Sir Brian. Congratulations, sir. You won a 100 pesos worth of loan. So yung PIN po ay i-email po namin sa inyo. Congratulations, Mr. Joselito de la Rosa. Mr. Joselito, nandito po ba kayo sa Zoom? Kindly raise your hand po. Ayan, nandito si Sir. Congratulations, sir. So I guess that's all for today. Meron pa po tayong last session tomorrow for this webinar series. Kita-kits po. Think positive, but stay negative. All right. Thank you and have a great one, everybody.